Welcome back, YouTube. Got a cool little dripper for you today. Something I wasn't really, expected to be all that cool, but it turned out to be pretty cool. Not my favorite. It's got a couple hang-ups. Today we'll be going over the Cascada by Cartel Mods. It is a sleek, little, sexy, single coil dripper with quite a bit of innovation going on here compared to a lot of the old school drippers, especially compared to like the Still Air V1, 2, and 3. This guy's mainly a single coil. I guess it's possible to do a dual coil, but it is really single coil specialized. You can do mesh and do stuff like a U-wick. You can really do all kinds of stuff. It's a really weird layout. It's got a reduced top cap chamber here. You'll notice a little hole inside there. That's so you can drop liquid through, or use it as an internal airflow hole to give it a little more open of a draw. But this thing costs about $100. It's not mine, it's my boss's. But I've borrowed it for the last handful of days and thought I'd review it. It is very unique. It is very different. It's not the easiest thing to build with nickel. With Canthal, it's not too bad. If they would just provide you with like a little tiny coil rod about that big, it would be perfect. But with it, how it stands right now, it's kind of a pain in the butt. Like the nickel build I have on here, it's 26 gauge. I'm running on the SX Mini. I don't know if you guys can see that all too well, but it is arced the way I have the coil, just so I could fit it in there. Kind of see it there better. And I could not get a straight coil with that many wraps in there, so it is a little bit of a challenge. There's not a ton of airflow on this atomizer. I would compare it to the vapor production and the airflow, a little more airy than the Veritas, but not any extra vapor. About the same vapor output as the Veritas. And it is a nice little single coil dripper. It's not my favorite. It might peak up into the top 10. If they put a building rod in here, just so you could kind of lay it flat while you install the coil leads, it would be oh so much easier. It's too short of a deck, as you can see here, to do any real vertical builds, especially with the reduced chamber in there. It's kind of like taking a little tip out of the Jenny playbook with the reduced chamber there. And it does give a nice, concentrated, dense flavor. But there's some hang-ups with it. One of the hang-ups I have with it is the airflow. They won't allow you to shut it off as much as I would like. That's as closed off as it goes. You know, it does this number here, like so. But I wish I could close it off just a touch more. It's a little too airy when it's shut off for my taste. I don't know. I've got the Milkman in here right now. I know this flavor pretty well. It pretty much comes out really good in almost all my drippers, especially the Veritas and the Marquee and some tanks too. But in this one, it's coming out a little muted on the fruit side of it. There's some strawberry Pop-Tart filling in this one, and you really have to put some heat to this juice to bring out the fruit flavor. Well, even when I've got it running in nickel and I've got it cranked up fairly high, I'm still having trouble getting some of those flavor notes out of this juice that I normally like. And that's my biggest complaint with the Cartel Mods dripper, is some of the flavors are muted on certain juices. So, another feature of this thing that's pretty cool, but doesn't really work, is this thing here. And it is a bitch to get this drip tip off, so bear with me. I've literally got to wiggle the fucking thing out, and it's got juice in there and everything. And this is my complaint with this thing, is you can't get the goddamn thing out. I normally grab something like a paper towel and yank on it, but there's something cool idea at least. In execution, I don't think it's going to be all that great in all reality, but what I'm trying to get to is this hole here. There's a hole on the top. God, this O-ring is way too tight. There we go. So, up here you see a hole. So this hole basically spits juice out right here. Okay? So, with this air hole / juice hole, you can squirt juice down into this with the top cap on, if you remove the drip tip. Well, nothing fits in there. A bottle dropper from like a 30 mil or a 15 mil definitely does not fit in there. A juice bottle, however, will. A needle, however, will. But how the fuck do you measure out how much juice to put in here? I mean, this juice well, it looks fairly substantial, but it's not. I mean, the whole thing only holds about 4 drops of juice. It's not a deep well. It looks to be pretty deep, but it's really not. And it doesn't hold that much juice. I can literally come over here and fill the thing up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I just filled it up with 6 drops. So it takes 6 drops from a 30 mil to fill it all the way up. And now it's going to be sloshy if I tip it forward. But the way I wick it, it kind of blocks the juice. Oh, there it goes. See, it already leaked. I don't know. There's just some hang-ups with this design. It's a really cool idea. I really like how they took the reduced chamber from some Jennies and put it on a single coil dripper. My main hang-ups are the ease of build with this dripper and the fact that the O-rings are stupid tight and the fact that it's single coil only. It's going to be for your flavor chasers, and it's not all that great for flavor. I mean, honestly, the Hobo, the Veritas, the Marquee, the Origin, all that stuff I consider to be a notch better flavor than what we got here. Does that mean this dripper is bad? No, it's actually pretty good. I do enjoy it. But compared to the other flavor outies out there in this price point, in the $100 price point, you could definitely get something a little better that holds more juice, that's easier to build on. With that being said, though, I do enjoy it. It's just not my favorite. It's not bad. It's just not great. It's good, but it's not great. It's not my favorite looking atomizer either. It's not bad looking, but to me, there are spots on this. They could have put some branding that would have done a lot for the look, I think. That's the only marking on the drip tip right here. On this guy, I really wish they would have put some branding on the side, and I normally don't even really like branding, but this thing looks so plain. It kind of looks like an Odin from the outside, especially with the drip tip, but it's not. The Odin has dual coils. This one, although it's set up to where you could technically do dual coils. I mean, you could see in there, you've got the kind of SOV style attachments for the positive and the negative. I prefer the SOV over this. It is a hell of a lot easier to build on, and it is actually got better flavor than this, in my opinion. It's also cheaper than this. It's also easier to get than this. This is made by Cartel Mods. Now, Cartel Mods aren't impossible to get, but you know, they're not one of those type of devices that's out there everywhere you look at every vape shop. But I'd probably give the flavor about a 7 out of 10. I'd give the Marquee and the Veritas probably a 9, and the Origin an 8.5, and then I'd probably give this guy a 7. I actually think I get better flavor out of some tanks than I do this dripper, which is weird. Like, I definitely get better flavor out of it, out of the plasma, and I may even get better flavor out of Milkman in the sub-tank. And drippers shouldn't be that way. Drippers should have better flavor than than a tank. But for whatever reason, this one just seems to mute some of the flavors, and I think a lot of it has to do with how the internal chimney and chamber is shaped. I think the flat ceiling on this guy might have affected the flavor if they would have just made the top cap a little taller and put a little bit of a bevel or a conical top cap design. It would have gone a long way. If you have this thing wide open, which I'll do now, it's fairly good. I mean, it's not like cloud chasing vapor, but it's pretty good. And honestly, you don't really get a whole lot of flavor improvement by closing it off like you do with a lot of atomizers. What you get is you get a whole lot of juice sputter and slurpiness if you have any kind of juice in that little well there at all. Even if you tip it back to hold it where the airflow is pointed up, you still get a little sputter in the mouth when it's wide open, and that's one of my bigger complaints as well with this guy. The machining quality is excellent on this. There was no machine oil. My boss got it. I remember right when he got it, it was fairly clean and smelled clean. Didn't smell like oil all over it. We kind of passed this around up at the shop, taking turns building on it. It seemed like half the builds the co-workers put on this vaped terrible, half of them vaped great. It is very build specific, but if you have one of these, this was the best build I could come up with. Was a nickel coil, 26 gauge, and I also feel like if you arc the coil a little bit, you can fit a bigger coil in there. I've got a 2.5 millimeter coil in here now, and it's really hard to get a 3 millimeter coil in there. Next, I'm going to try it with with mesh instead of cotton. I've seen Quack do his builds where he's got mesh going all the way around the well there, and it looked like it would vape pretty damn good. But the way I've been using it with cotton, I mostly vape with cotton. I mean, I'm not against Jennies. I do like Jennies. I just don't use them that much, honestly. I've tried them, and they vape good, but I've found builds with cotton that I could get to vape better. And to me, the difference in the Jennies versus the cotton, the mesh versus the cotton, is the throat hit. I can't get as much of a throat hit off the mesh as I can with the cotton, and that does something for me, the throat hit. I actually like my vape to be like a cigarette. I still mouth to lung for the most part, and I want it to be like a cigarette in a way. I want it to have some throat hit, I want it to taste good, and I want it to be satisfying. And with mesh, I just can't get that satisfying throat hit, or at least I couldn't with my builds. But I digress. We'll take one final look at this guy. Pretty sexy, pretty different. A+ effort for innovation and trying to be different and not just doing what everyone else does with a 3-post or 4-post design on this guy. I mean, I really think they had a good idea. I think the placement of the screws, if they were out a little farther, it would have helped. I think they should have put this screw a little farther back for the other lead. That would have given you more room. It's hard to put the coil right in front of the air slot with nickel because of how many wraps you have to use with nickel. But overall, not a bad Addy. Fairly impressed with it. Would I buy one after using it? Probably not. But I do use it, or I do enjoy using it. It looks cool. It's different. If you're a single coil dripper kind of guy and you don't mind dripping every 10 to 12 hits, then it's not a bad choice, especially if you just want something different. Anyway, that's the Cartel Mod, or Cascada from Cartel Mods, if I'm even saying that right. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to subscribe and hit the thumbs up. Have a good one, and happy 420, guys.